Having a photographic memory is actually an illness. Normal people's memories work like this. They remember the useful and forget the useless. But people with this condition recall every memory in vivid detail. Remembering something is like watching an AR movie, they're completely immersed in it. Painful memories replay over and over, trapping them inside. This condition is called Highly Superior Autobiographical Memory, but there are upsides. For instance, during a live news broadcast, the teleprompter suddenly failed. Most anchors would freeze, leaving the director in a panic, but not Jung-hoon. He remained calm and confidently delivered the entire news script at 1.2x speed, despite the gibberish on the screen. Thanks to his incredible memory, he became the most well-known solo anchor in South Korea. However, his next interview subject left him scratching his head. A quick search online showed that the ultra-popular celebrity Ha-jin was constantly in the news and trending. Even a small hair clip she casually wore would sell out instantly. With her stunning looks and magnetic charm, she became a tabloid magnet. Just meeting two male celebrities led to headlines accusing her of dating both. The next morning, the internet exploded with gossip. Ha-jin, the supposed heartbreaker, was utterly baffled by the rumors. The only thing that bothered her was that the photos weren't flattering. Her reaction nearly gave her manager a heart attack. Outside the company, a group of angry fans gathered, not to support her, but to scold her. They banged on her car in protest. Most celebrities would be devastated by such a scene, but Ha-jin calmly wrote a big no on the bathroom mirror in lipstick, snapped a gorgeous selfie, and posted it on social media. As expected from the queen of controversy, her post instantly went viral with likes, shares, and comments pouring in. Of course, there was even more hate. Her manager repeatedly told her not to respond, but no one thought to stop her from going to the bathroom. Soon, Jung-hoon saw these news stories too. How could he possibly interview such a celebrity? Here's a little secret. Ha-jin has a condition too. She forgets all the important stuff. So we have one anchor who remembers everything with perfect clarity, and one superstar who can't remember anything she wants to. And that's how two people with conditions began a beautiful love story. How top stars bully junior actors in Korea. Ha-jin had pre-selected an outfit, but Yura liked it too and wore the same one. She even demanded Ha-jin change hers. Innocently, Ha-jin asked her assistant if she should, and the assistant, despite knowing better, said it looked great on her. With no choice, Ha-jin changed. After all, she wasn't the bigger star. But Yura wasn't done. During a scene where Ha-jin was supposed to splash water, Yura grabbed Ha-jin's hand, twisted it, and followed with a slap. The entire crew was stunned. Playing innocent, Yura exclaimed, "Oops," asking everyone if they were upset. Meanwhile, Ha-jin, gently rubbing her face, said her character was meant to be slapped. It actually helped with character development. Her attitude is a rare breath of fresh air in the entertainment industry. Later that evening, Ha-jin prepared for her interview and quickly looked up background info on anchor Jung-hoon. In a video, he had bluntly exposed another top star's diva behavior. Yura chimed in again, repeating her point over and over. Now there were only the two of them left in the room. Outside, Ha-jin's manager tightly held onto the company president, silently praying Ha-jin wouldn't cause trouble. Inside, Jung-hoon was seriously explaining the interview process to Ha-jin, but she couldn't focus. His tie was just too hideous. She suggested he change it. Then, she handed him a drink. But it wasn't as innocent as Jung-hoon imagined. He composed himself and sat down in his chair. Ha-jin asked why he hadn't changed his tie. Jung-hoon casually replied that he didn't have a better one. To his surprise, Ha-jin pulled out a tie from her pocket and insisted he wear it. When he hesitated, Ha-jin moved in to change it herself. Jung-hoon already had a bad impression of her from the earlier drinking incident, but now it hit rock bottom. Still, his professionalism kicked in, and he quickly got into character to begin the interview. Moments ago, Ha-jin had seemed gentle and reserved. But as soon as the camera rolled, she hit him with a sharp, aggressive question. Why did you publicly endorse a brand a few months ago, and then soon after express strong dissatisfaction with its products? Not just once, but multiple times. Even your political affiliations have flip-flopped. Do you have an explanation? Ha-jin said she had her reasons, but couldn't remember them. To Young-hoon, it sounded like an excuse. As he pressed her with follow-up questions, Ha-jin responded, "I didn't think that deeply. It was just a simple friendship thing." That sentence hit Young-hoon like a switch flipped in his brain. It was exactly what his ex-girlfriend used to say. Suddenly, memories of his ex flooded in. How they met, her dancing, and the moment of her death. It all felt painfully real. He was trapped in his memories. And just like that, in the middle of a live broadcast, Young-hoon froze completely. No matter how loudly the director shouted into his earpiece, Young-hoon sat there, blankly staring. Ha-jin quickly went to check on him, and he suddenly grabbed her hand. That touch snapped him out of it. Young-hoon quickly wrapped up the interview. But online, backlash erupted. People started blaming Ha-jin, claiming she had a meltdown on set and walked off mid-filming. Because everyone loved Young-hoon so much, they automatically blamed Ha-jin. Even though she was taking the fall, Ha-jin still wanted to invite Young-hoon out for dinner after the live stream. Her manager, Ha-young, rolled her eyes so hard it hurt. "This is a live broadcast, girl. When we're off the air, the bosses are going to chew us out." Young-hoon quickly went to the director's office to apologize. The papers flying everywhere made it obvious just how furious the director was. Director Kim seized the moment to also scold Young-hoon harshly. But the bureau chief, who was fiercely protective, stepped in and said, "My people, I can scold." Luckily, the bureau chief knew about Young-hoon's hyperthymesia. After Young-hoon repeatedly promised it wouldn't happen again, the chief decided to forgive him. Shortly afterward, the chief called in Young-hoon's longtime friend, but before he could finish venting, the bureau chief called again. Following the chief's orders, Young-hoon headed to a bar, only to run into Ha-jin again. Was he cursed to keep running into her? But with the bureau chief present, he couldn't exactly storm off. Ha-jin, always sincere, said, "Are you mad? Suddenly having me around?" "Yes," Young-hoon replied. Ha-jin, ever the wild card, gave a small, helpless expression that even she didn't understand. The bureau chief chuckled and told Young-hoon that Ha-jin had taken the heat for the earlier fiasco because of him. Ha-jin casually replied that she was used to getting scolded. It didn't bother her. Impressed, the chief gave her a big thumbs up and showered her with praise. Young-hoon, stuck between them, could only look around awkwardly, completely out of place. Ha-jin tried starting a conversation with Young-hoon, but he only gave a couple of half-hearted replies. Then the bureau chief stepped away to take a call. Ha-jin, left alone with Young-hoon, curiously asked about his first love. Young-hoon, not wanting to talk about it, simply said he forgot. But Ha-jin said she still remembered hers. It was a boy from ballet school in Paris. Young-hoon was surprised. The bureau chief finally returned, only to pick up her bag and leave early. Bored, Young-hoon reached for the glass beside him to take a sip. Before Ha-jin could explain, Young-hoon had already had enough. He didn't want to spend another minute with this woman. He got up and left. Ha-jin chased after him. "Young-hoon, do you even remember me?" Suddenly, Young-hoon turned and fired off a rapid barrage. "The first time we met, it was the middle of the night and you wouldn't let me go home. What were you trying to do?" Ha-jin explained she just wanted to get closer to him. But Young-hoon accused her of using the bureau chief to force him into coming out, without even asking if he wanted to. Ha-jin didn't stand a chance in a verbal battle with a seasoned anchor. Before she could respond, her sister Ha-kyung happened to arrive. Young-hoon hailed a cab and left in frustration. Ha-kyung looked at Ha-jin and said, "What are you doing?" And just like that, Ha-jin's name was in the headlines again. This time, Young-hoon was suddenly her rumored boyfriend. Young-hoon woke up the next morning completely stunned. Meanwhile, Ha-jin told reporters they were in the early stages of developing feelings. Meanwhile, Young-hoon was swarmed by reporters over the scandal with Ha-jin. He finally squeezed into the office area, only to be greeted, shockingly, by Director Kim, who had always looked down on him. Smiling and holding a coffee, he was lured into a room. Inside, entertainment reporter Seo-hyun was waiting, trying to dig for exclusive dirt about him and Ha-jin. Director Kim, nosy as ever, wanted in on the gossip too. Young-hoon was so pissed he stormed out. Even the department chief didn't spare him. The chief said, "If it's not true, just release a statement denying the relationship." But Young-hoon analyzed it. A dark night, two people photographed together, a taxi driver as a witness. And Ha-jin had admitted to the relationship. If he denied it now, the public would definitely see him as a scumbag. Seeing Young-hoon troubled, the chief suggested, "Why not just talk to her face to face?" Soon, Young-hoon called Ha-jin. She was in the middle of a shoot. But when she saw Young-hoon's name flash on the screen, a smile tugged at her lips. As staff fitted her mic, she answered the call and calmly walked to the center of the set, answering on live television. Young-hoon, dead serious, asked to meet. On the other end, the hosts and fans lost their minds. The show's producers were ecstatic. This was a ratings goldmine. The host's face was practically swallowed by his grin. But Young-hoon? He looked like he had a migraine. He exhaled heavily and finally said, "Let's talk tonight." That evening, they met at Han River, the unofficial lover's lane of Seoul. Young-hoon admitted he'd misunderstood her the night before and asked, "Did you let the reporters run wild on purpose? Was it revenge?" Ha-jin, totally composed, nodded. It was revenge. Young-hoon then told her, "I can't start anything new. I still love my first love." "Fine," Ha-jin shrugged. "If we can't date, then let's negotiate our situation." She proposed a fake relationship, keep up the act for a while until the buzz dies down, then announce a breakup. Given that her upcoming movie wasn't expected to blow up, Young-hoon set a timeline, 2 weeks. Ha-jin was a little hurt by the comment about her film flopping, but she agreed, surprisingly cheerful. They picked what they thought was a paparazzi-free location, but a gossip reporter still managed to find them. They rushed to escape by car, but just then, it started snowing. Young-hoon's expression changed. The snow blurred his vision and pulled him back into a memory. His first love had been hit by a car on a snowy day, right in front of him. The emotional flood drowned him. He pulled over. "Go home on your own," he told Ha-jin, shaking. Ha-jin, shocked, accused him. "You think just because I like you, you can toss me around? That's not respect." She confronted him directly. "You made me fall for you. You looked at me that way. The way you stared during that broadcast, so full of sorrow, how could I not fall?" She asked him, "Why did you look at me like that? What were you thinking?" The words hit Young-hoon like lightning. Because those were the exact words his first love had once said to him. Years ago, Ha-jin involved in an accident that makes her to forget things. Then, 3 months later, she finally spoke. For the first time, she showed a human expression again. The doctor took it as a good sign and prescribed her sleeping pills. But no one expected. She used those pills to attempt suicide. Thankfully, a few weeks later, Ha-jin recovered. She became lively, optimistic, even vibrant. But she remembered nothing, especially about her best friend, Seo-yeon. Only by forgetting could she continue living. To protect her, her family hid everything related to Seo-yeon. That's when Young-hoon finally understood why Ha-jin didn't remember. But somewhere in the world, there was someone just like her. Not long after, at a press conference for Ha-jin's movie, reporters finally got a chance to ask about Young-hoon. The director told her she could skip the question. But Ha-jin still answered. She said Young-hoon was her ideal type. After the interview, the director's creepy hand lingered on her shoulder, making her sister very uncomfortable. Meanwhile, the company president gleefully entered the lounge. Thanks to Young-hoon's involvement, the film's pre-sale numbers had hit #1 on the charts. The public's perception of her had shifted positively, largely because of her rumored romance with Young-hoon. In the broadcast studio, producers were already joking about the relationship drama. Young-hoon couldn't tolerate the director's relentless demands and left the studio abruptly. Meanwhile, Ha-jin was chatting with her sister about Young-hoon. Just then, Young-hoon called again. This time, Ha-jin happily suggested they meet at a cafe. She was so excited, she asked her sister to help pick out an outfit. Her sister jokingly chose that ridiculous mackerel print dress. She giggled, but Ha-jin just used it as a process of elimination tool to make a quicker decision. They met at the cafe as planned, chatting as they climbed to the second floor. Ha-jin lost her footing for a moment, and Young-hoon caught her. As Young-hoon held the door open for her, Ha-jin's heart started pounding uncontrollably. She took a sip of her drink, then frowned slightly. Young-hoon caught the hint, sniffed his own drink and said, "This is the real one." Watching the beautiful nightscape outside the window, Ha-jin decided to take some selfies. She struck a pose and made sure to include Young-hoon in the frame. Back at the table, Young-hoon asked, "Why do you like taking so many pictures? You're a celebrity too," Ha-jin teased. "Aren't you always being photographed?" "I have a bad memory," she replied. "If I have photos, I won't forget." That's when Young-hoon's heart quietly broke for her. Then Ha-jin remembered. She hadn't asked about extending their fake relationship. Nervously, she brought it up, worried Young-hoon would be annoyed. But Young-hoon just said, "Sure." Ha-jin was surprised. He was especially gentle and kind today. But then Young-hoon looked at her with the softest eyes and spoke words that felt like ice, asking her to stay away from him, saying he can't love her. Ha-jin sat in silence. The next morning, Ha-jin sat frozen on her bed. Though she and Young-hoon hadn't even started dating, it already felt like a breakup. Her manager burst in, snatching the phone. Tossing the phone back onto the bed, she failed to notice a dark, obsessive comment buried in the feed. "Ha-jin is mine. Only I can have you." Later, Ha-jin prepared for a fan meeting. Her hair was tied neatly, gloves were slipped onto her hands. She stared at it as though it had personally offended her. The CEO blinked. "She can cook." The manager deadpanned, "She can't. She's a total disaster. Even her instant noodles taste awful." But Ha-jin was determined. She would make lunchboxes for her fans. After what felt like an eternity, she finally managed to assemble one halfway presentable bento. At the fan meeting, a small girl clung to the front of the line, mesmerized by Ha-jin's beauty and refusing to leave. With dozens waiting behind, Ha-jin decided to coax her away with a gift. Her sister raised an eyebrow. "You really want to give her that?" she asked. "It's a weapon, not lunch." Still, Ha-jin handed the bento to the girl like it was treasure. The girl took one look, wrinkled her nose and muttered, this is, but never finished. Back at the agency, Ha-jin returned to another surprise. Fans swarming the building entrance. They crowded her car, cameras flashing nonstop. Through it all, she kept muttering, "I don't have fans," but the crowd said otherwise. This time, things had changed. Public opinion had flipped, and now, her supposed romance with Young-hoon had made her a star again. Meanwhile, Young-hoon stepped into his office, only to find his desk buried under a mountain of gifts, and that was just what had been delivered so far. He sighed and shoved them toward his assistant, Zhao. Still denying the rumors, he looked exhausted. Zhao scoffed, "You might as well admit it. The whole country's seen those pictures of you and Ha-jin by the Han River." Before he could respond, Director Kim barged in and dropped a thick folder on his desk. Young-hoon opened it and winced. His next interview subject? The director of Ha-jin's film. Groaning, he ran to his boss. "Give this to someone else," he pleaded. But his boss smirked. The boss leaned in. "Have you even seen her movie? It's good. Made me cry even." That piqued Young-hoon's interest. Meanwhile, Young-hoon sat alone in a dark theater, watching Ha-jin's film. The screen lit up with her image, and her voice delivered a poignant monologue. "Without you, the time I saw alone, can I forget you?" The words struck him like a wave. He felt her pain deeply, almost as if it were his own. It took him a long time to collect himself after the credits rolled, but the moment he stepped outside, a group of excitable schoolgirls surrounded him. One of them snapped a photo right in his face, and two others swooped in, sandwiching him for a surprise photo op before they darted off squealing, leaving him stunned. Later that night, Ha-jin, scrolling through her phone, suddenly gasped. Young-hoon had gone to see her movie. What did that mean? Was it a sign? Excitedly, she barged into her sister Ha-kyung's room, waving her phone. She rambled on, theorizing about what Young-hoon's late-night cinema visit revealed about his feelings. Ha-kyung, half asleep, could barely keep up. "He must miss me," Ha-jin concluded with giddy certainty. Too tired to argue, Ha-kyung mumbled something incomprehensible before crashing again. By morning, her room was a battlefield of chaos. Frustrated, she took it out on a stuffed bear, pounding it with a flurry of punches to vent. The source of the chaos? Ha-jin herself, who had just stepped out of a luxury car, glowing like she carried her own spotlight. She intercepted Young-hoon as he was about to leave and insisted on talking. He wanted to avoid her, but the sight of gossip-hungry director Kim approaching from a distance spooked him into ducking into Ha-jin's car. They ended up back at the same cafe where they'd once talked. He struggled to express himself honestly. "I didn't mean anything else, I only came to see you." Ha-jin, clearly flustered, practically squirmed with embarrassment, like she could dig a hole to hide in. But she gathered herself and asked quietly, "During this time, did you ever think of me?" Young-hoon sighed. "I don't forget people easily." But Ha-jin, misunderstanding the nuance, lit up with hope. She smiled brightly and said she genuinely wanted to continue developing their relationship. In her heart, the misunderstanding felt like destiny. Maybe Young-hoon also needed time to figure out his true feelings, but Ha-jin urged him not to avoid her intentionally, teasing, "I know where you live, you know." Young-hoon laughed and they parted ways. Soon after, the director forcefully dragged Young-hoon to an awards ceremony. To his surprise, Ha-jin appeared there too, gracefully descending in a stunning red gown. The director introduced Young-hoon, congratulating him on winning an award, though regretfully unable to present it personally. When the ceremony began, Young-hoon gave his official acceptance speech, but the host jokingly mentioned that the anchorwoman Ha-jin was present and asked if he wanted to say something. The reporters' cameras immediately turned toward Ha-jin. Young-hoon watched her back and sincerely wished, "I hope the coming days will be happier." His heartfelt blessing made Ha-jin feel that the man she liked was truly a good person. Back home, Ha-jin replayed Young-hoon's video repeatedly, using her high intelligence to analyze that Young-hoon was probably playing hard to get. Frustrated by her own confusion, she decided to go out for a movie, taking selfies before leaving. Unbeknownst to her, a mysterious figure in black was secretly photographing her. As Ha-jin got into her car, the shadowy figure slowly approached. Meanwhile, Zhao happily read Young-hoon's letter, but his expression changed instantly when he found something in an envelope. He quickly showed the shocking photos to Young-hoon, who was stunned. The images reminded him of a room filled with stalking photos, including ones where his face had been viciously scratched out, along with wedding dresses and giant portraits, an eerily similar pattern. Young-hoon quickly checked his phone and found Ha-jin's movie outing information. He called Ha-kyung, but they were not together. Explaining the photos, he pieced together Ha-jin's possible location and rushed to the cinema. He repeatedly called Ha-jin's phone but got no answer. Meanwhile, a tense story unfolded. A man, once deeply caring and kind, had become obsessed with Young-hoon's ex-wife. His room was plastered with photos of her, all vandalized with scratches on Young-hoon's face. Videos of their encounters played on a loop, and in a tragic climax, the man kidnapped Young-hoon's ex-wife and, when she denied him, he pushed her from a height, causing her death. Now Young-hoon received new photos like these. Fearful for Ha-jin's safety, he drove frantically around searching for her. Finally, he spotted Ha-jin being harassed by several men by the roadside. Without hesitation, Young-hoon rushed through heavy traffic, pushed the men away, and held Ha-jin tightly in his arms. Ha-jin was stunned, and one of the men confronted Young-hoon, demanding to know who he was, only for another man to recognize him. Young-hoon asked why they were bothering Ha-jin, and it turned out she had accidentally hit their car. Despite seeing a big star, they were more concerned about getting photos, pulling at each other as they posed. After clearing up the misunderstanding, Ha-jin noticed her phone was full of missed calls and said, "You really do worry about me, huh?" Young-hoon awkwardly explained that anyone would care if she stayed out late and didn't answer calls. Ha-jin said she wouldn't misunderstand but kept it to herself. Young-hoon warned her to be careful of those around her. Back home, Ha-jin bragged that Young-hoon was now her boyfriend, unaware how worried everyone had been. Young-hoon called Ha-jin's sister, asking her to take things seriously, and they agreed to keep the matter from Ha-jin for now. Still uneasy, Young-hoon compared all photos online and even went to the photo location the next day but found no clues. Meanwhile, Ha-jin, just waking up, stepped outside only to find many bodyguards around. At the company, the manager gave Ha-jin a stack of scripts, asking her to focus on selecting projects, and informed her that her fan signing event was cancelled. Ha-jin felt a little disappointed, but then the manager received a call accusing her of diva behavior for the sudden cancellation. Sensing something was off, Ha-jin's sister reluctantly explained the truth. Ha-jin became even more worried about Young-hoon's safety, urging him to be very careful, which warmed his heart. Later, the director summoned Young-hoon to the office, where he saw the director taking photos of the manager. The manager told the director to prepare and warned Young-hoon that the director seemed suspicious, always trying to pry into Young-hoon and Ha-jin's relationship. The director, who also liked Ha-jin, teasingly asked if they were a couple and why they never communicated, making Young-hoon glare coldly. The director forced Young-hoon to drink, pouring wine despite his reluctance, but Ha-jin quickly snatched the glass and drank it all, earning her the nickname skincare fanatic and making the director even more jealous. Young-hoon diluted the wine with water, breaking the director's sour mood. When the wine ran out, the director loudly called for more and glanced over to see Young-hoon and Ha-jin whispering intimately, getting drunk and slightly tipsy. Taking advantage of the moment, Young-hoon began searching the director's bag, asking Ha-jin to keep watch, suspecting the director might be the one secretly taking photos. Finding nothing, the director returned unsteadily, and Ha-jin hurried back, sitting so abruptly she fell into Young-hoon's arms, just as the director walked in. Seeing the director drunk, Ha-jin and Young-hoon tried to leave, but the director grabbed Ha-jin's hand, wanting to continue drinking. Young-hoon quickly twisted the director's arm, pushing him down with surprising strength. Eventually, Ha-jin took the director home, and Young-hoon saw Ha-jin safely to her door, unaware that a mysterious black-clad man had silently snuck into Ha-jin's house. The man, seemingly familiar with the place, quietly entered her room and gently touched her bed. At 4:05, the man quietly touched the little bear on the bed. Just then, Young-hoon brought Ha-jin back, and the man quickly fled. Ha-jin confessed to Young-hoon that she often felt something was wrong, as there were memories she couldn't recall. Despite Young-hoon clearly not liking her, Ha-jin wondered why he still cared so much, especially during those forgotten days. Was Young-hoon with her then? Suddenly, Young-hoon called out her name repeatedly and gave chase, determined to catch the voyeur. The black-clad man ran ahead, but Young-hoon pursued relentlessly. Back at the villa, Ha-jin worried about Lee Young-hoon and asked Moonchul to go help him. Meanwhile, Young-hoon caught the man on a desolate road, tackled him to the ground, and prepared to throw punches. The man quickly removed his mask and begged for mercy. It turned out he was a voyeur. Moonchul arrived, eyeing the sneaky man, while Young-hoon grabbed the camera and confiscated the memory card, warning the man not to appear again or face consequences. Ha-jin, waiting anxiously at home, suddenly heard a door close upstairs. He found a window open and postcards scattered on the floor, clear signs someone had been inside, but didn't dwell on it. Moonchul soon returned and updated her, then rushed out to find Young-hoon. Ha-jin asked if Young-hoon was truly prepared to face any danger, and though taken aback by the doubt, Young-hoon felt warmed by Ha-jin's concern. The next day, Xiao Zhao gleefully reported that the voyeur was arrested and sent to jail. When Young-hoon asked about the voyeur's background, Xiao Zhao explained he was a notorious peeping Tom who often broke into people's homes, even bathrooms, but was repeatedly released because he used the photos as blackmail. Xiao Zhao handed over 2 investigation files, one on the voyeur and one on Moonchul. Meanwhile, Young-hoon had just returned to his mother's home, where she teased the 2 young men about aging. She happily hugged her son, though dinner soon brought the dreaded topic of marriage pressure, especially as Ha-jin called, immediately asking if there was anything she could help with, obviously needing a favor. The dynamic between them amused everyone. One dared to ask, and the other dared to agree. Once inside, Young-hoon's mother asked to bring Ha-jin over, knowing their relationship, but Young-hoon admitted it was just a facade, which clearly disappointed his mom. Back at the office, Xiao Zhao pulled out another envelope filled with malicious stalking photos of them. The note said, "Don't be delusional, Ha-jin belongs to me." Receiving 2 such photos brought back painful memories of that night when a man called using his girlfriend's phone. Young-hoon asked who it was. The man laughed, "Don't be delusional, the one Ju-yun loves is me." Meanwhile, Ju-yun, Young-hoon's first love injured in foot and hand, was being forced by the pervert to wear a ring. When Ju-yun refused, the man dragged her to the rooftop, threatening to jump together. Just as Young-hoon's car arrived downstairs, Ju-yeon left, while the man shouted Young-hoon's name from above with a mocking laugh, confident Young-hoon would let him go. But Young-hoon soon found him and unleashed a furious barrage of punches. Cornered, the man grabbed a shard of glass to commit suicide but was stopped by the police who arrived. Though the man was in custody, the method of those malicious photos was too similar. Young-hoon needed to verify if the man was still in jail. Fortunately, he was. Then who was taking the photos? Back chatting with Taeun, Taeun said it was probably just one person and told Young-hoon not to be so suspicious. But Young-hoon bitterly recalled how 8 years ago, that man appeared countless times at convenience stores and cafes near them, and he never noticed. If only he had been more suspicious then, he wouldn't have lost Ju-yeon. Now he could not lose Ha-jin too. That evening, Young-hoon accompanied Ha-jin to meet the scriptwriter and director. The writer was excitedly crafting their CP couple pairing, but the director wore a sour expression the whole time. The writer enthusiastically pushed dishes toward Ha-jin, but Young-hoon reminded Ha-jin urgently she was allergic to shrimp. Ha-jin quietly asked how he knew, and Young-hoon awkwardly excused himself to the bathroom. Not long after, the writer stepped out to take a call. At this, the director dropped the act. In his eyes, Ha-jin only got the script because of her boyfriend, the news anchor. He looked down on her acting skills, calling it trash, and warned her to be more self-aware. Their conversation was overheard by Young-hoon, who had just returned. The director quickly shut up. Soon the writer came back, and the director immediately switched back to his sweet demeanor. Young-hoon assured the writer he would take good care of Ha-jin and was confident he could help her become a decent anchor. The writer was very pleased. These words were clearly meant to remind the director, who was listening. On the way home, Ha-jin was unhappy and demanded beer. Young-hoon quickly stopped and took a big gulp himself. Such a cute superstar, Ha-jin said, toasting with Lee Young-hoon. Young-hoon poured water for her, but after drinking it, Ha-jin suddenly got off the car. Worried, Young-hoon followed the unsteady Ha-jin and sat down with her on the steps. Ha-jin asked if Young-hoon had heard the director's words. Young-hoon nodded, "Yeah, I heard. Don't worry, I won't let anyone look down on you." Ha-jin looked up at him, eyes a bit watery but trying to stay strong. "Thanks. It's just, sometimes I wonder if I'm really good enough." Young-hoon smiled warmly, "You're more than good enough. You've got talent and heart, that's what counts." Moon Cheol found that Ha-jin's house had installed surveillance cameras. Feeling uneasy, he hurried to check the computer and showed a mischievous expression. He was thinking of a strategy. At this time, Ha-jin's sister called, asking what the surveillance recorded. Moon Cheol lied, saying the cameras malfunctioned, nothing was recorded, he would reset it properly, then deleted the previous footage. Scene shifts to the TV station. Ha-jin and his group unexpectedly meet Young-hoon and the director. The president was surprised and excited, shaking hands with Young-hoon. The president is truly a social master, just one word and she charmed everyone. The director brushed her off and asked how Ha-jin came to the station. It turns out they came to experience life. The director politely said they could come anytime. The president said she'd come tomorrow. The director awkwardly said okay. Watching them leave, Young-hoon felt something was off about Moon Cheol. Back in the car, Ha-jin's phone rang. It was a call from the director. Her sister told her not to answer, but she did anyway. At the director's house, the director took out a newly written script, inviting Ha-jin to star, but Ha-jin was also acting in another person's movie, so she rejected the script. The director suddenly changed expression, grabbed her hand. While they struggled, Ha-jin's came in, saving Ha-jin, but the director angrily threw the script onto Ha-jin's photo, making him clench his fists in anger. The next day, Ha-jin went to the TV station for a shoot. She craned her neck to sneak a look at Young-hoon. Such an obvious peek, who wouldn't notice? Young-hoon told her to come sit over, so Ha-jin happily sat beside him, suddenly becoming a curious kid asking questions, taking notes on a small notebook. Just when the study atmosphere was at its peak, Director Kim, who was sleeping nearby, appeared, teasing them about making out and dating in the office, saying the director is the boss even on the news. Young-hoon wasn't fooled. As the anchor, he must listen to him. He dared to talk like that about his idol. In Ha-jin's mind, the director was already the villain, so she took note and waited for a chance to get revenge. Buying coffee, Ha-jin ran into director Kim again. The director was talking badly about Young-hoon on the phone. Ha-jin quietly followed behind and strode over, mustering all her strength, blood boiling, then she showed a satisfied smile. Just as the director angrily turned around, Ha-jin immediately put on a surprised face, saying she thought she was a manager and that she dialed the wrong number. The director was dumbfounded, thinking Ha-jin had trained boxing. Her head hurt softly. This scene was just seen by Young-hoon and his mother. Mom was so amused she could hardly eat. Then she invited her to dinner. The two got along very well, applying hand cream together like little girls. Mom told Young-hoon that Ha-jin hit the director on purpose and even interviewed Ha-jin about how she felt after the punch. Mom liked Ha-jin very much. Ha-jin helped Mom mail a scarf. Mom asked Young-hoon if it looked good. "What's the point of having a son?" she said jokingly. The three of them happily took a photo together. Mom held the photo in her hands, admiring it repeatedly, but was scolded by the nurse. In her condition, she shouldn't be going out anymore. Not long after, Young-hoon found a notebook in the makeup room. Inside were notes about how he liked to use ballpoint pens, how she hated director Kim, and how she disliked being asked what to do. Every detail of Young-hoon's life was meticulously recorded. Young-hoon returned the notebook to Ha-jin, who asked if he was angry. He had already realized that Ha-jin knew about his illness. He thought Ha-jin was just trying to accommodate him by memorizing everything. But Ha-jin was actually afraid of forgetting things about him. She wanted to remember these memories forever. Who wouldn't fall in love with such a girl? After work, in the parking lot, a group of people surrounded Ha-jin. It turned out Moon Cheol was on leave, and there was no one to pick her up. So Young-hoon drove her to the hospital. But at the hospital, Young-hoon seemed to spot his father. He called, but no one answered. So he followed the man and ended up at a funeral home. To his shock, the portrait in the memorial hall was of his own mother. A reporter spotted a grieving Ha-jin and pulled out his camera to take photos, but was blocked by the alert Ha-jin's sister. The man smirked and walked over, saying it was just a photo and there was no need to be so defensive. Xiao Zhao came up and pulled him away. Unexpectedly, the reporter, acting superior, began tapping Xiao Zhao on the head repeatedly. Xiao Zhao said he was being unreasonable, but the man grabbed him and raised his cane. At that moment, Ha-jin's sister grabbed the reporter's hand and twisted it, causing him to beg for mercy. Meanwhile, Young-hoon was overwhelmed with guilt. His mother knew he would never forget anything. So she decided not to leave him with painful memories. In her final moments, she suppressed her longing for her son and didn't let his father call him. She didn't want her son to see her cold, lifeless body. She wanted to remain in his memory as the warm, smiling mother he knew. Soon after, Ha-jin left the funeral home and heard a woman crying sadly. It triggered a memory of a funeral she had attended. The next day, Ha-jin's sister received a call from Moon Cheol, asking why he was removed. Ha-jin's sister made an excuse to brush him off. Ha-jin, curious, asked why. Ha-jin's sister explained that Young-hoon suspected that the director and Moon Cheol might be related to Song Hwang. That night, an unknown figure covered the security camera outside Ha-jin's home and sneaked into her bedroom. The next morning, she woke up to find her walls covered in photos of herself, with messages of affection scribbled all over them. Shocked, she immediately contacted Young-hoon. Concerned for her safety, Young-hoon rushed over. Her manager, fearing public scandal, advised against calling the police. Instead, Young-hoon arranged a safe place for Ha-jin and her sister to stay. His assistant, however, was left with nowhere to sleep. The next morning, on his way to work, Young-hoon noticed a suspicious car tailing him. He blocked the vehicle, only to find out that the driver was a paparazzo named Yeo-min, the same person who had secretly photographed Ha-jin before. Young-hoon confiscated his camera and had his assistant retrieve the memory card. It was filled with countless pictures of Ha-jin in various locations. Realizing Yeo-min was an obsessive stalker, Young-hoon confronted him at his workplace. Startled, Yeo-min tried to escape but was quickly caught. When questioned, he claimed he had been hired to take the photos. He then revealed chat logs showing that he had been receiving payments in cryptocurrency from an anonymous user. The only clue was that the employer rode a black motorcycle with a covered license plate. Meanwhile, two young fans in a cafe were excitedly taking pictures when they spotted Hajin dining nearby. They took secret photos of her, gushing over how stunning she looked. As Hajin left the cafe, at that moment, Hajin was completely unaware of the approaching danger. However, she suddenly recalled the sound of a motorcycle engine from the past. Luckily, her younger sister had pushed her away just in time, preventing serious injury. Detective arrived at the actress's house to investigate. Inside, they found the walls covered with secretly taken photos of her. The detectives theorized that the perpetrator was likely someone close to the victim. Hajin's younger sister mentioned a possible suspect. Following this lead, the detective interrogated Hajin's driver, Hajin, asking about his whereabouts the previous night. Hajin claimed that he had been drinking with friends and had stayed over at their place, meaning he had no alibi. Red heart. Next, the detective turned to the director, who had always admired Hajin. Upon searching his room, they found several photos of her. When questioned, the director stated that he had spent the entire night writing a script. Yeo Min was in the middle of sorting through his collection of secretly taken photos when someone knocked on his door, claiming to be there for a gas inspection. Outside, the detective noticed that no one was answering the door. Sensing danger, he broke in, only to find that the intruder had already escaped through the window. Yeo Min, now terrified, quickly hailed a taxi, relieved to have escaped. However, his relief was short-lived. He soon received an email from Young-hoon. Attached to it was a voice recording proving his involvement in the crime. Young-hoon sent Yeo Min a warning. He had two options: turn himself in or face public exposure of the recording. If he failed to confess, he would have to bear the consequences of his actions. Meanwhile, after finishing her day's shoot, Hajin was preparing to go home. Her sister offered to bring the car around. But as she was retrieving it from the parking lot, she suddenly saw a vehicle speed toward her. It was their own car. Completely unaware of the danger, Hajin had already gotten into the vehicle. Detective arrived at the scene and discovered a suspicious parked vehicle. Inside, he found Hajin's phone, alongside a used syringe, likely containing a sedative. However, the area was a surveillance blind spot, meaning the perpetrator had planned this crime meticulously. The main suspects were quickly narrowed down to two people: Hajin's driver and the director, who had always admired her. The detective's investigation uncovered inconsistencies in Hajin's driver's alibi. He claimed he had been drinking with friends, but his call records suggested otherwise. Meanwhile, the detective analyzed surveillance footage near the abduction site. In one of the frames, he spotted Hajin's driver lurking in a shadowed corner. Arriving at Hajin's driver's home, the detective and his team forcefully opened the door, only to find the place eerily empty. However, on the bed, they found a single women's earring. Hajin's sister instantly recognized it. It belonged to Hajin. Based on new leads, she informed the detective that Hajin's driver's family home was in Songyuan, suggesting he might be hiding there. At the same time, Young-hoon continued his own investigation. He visited the director residence and found a package of receipts in the mailbox. Suspecting something was off, he immediately reported his findings to the detective. Meanwhile, the detective rushed to Hajin's driver's family home in Songyuan. Bursting into the house, they caught Hajin's driver still asleep. He was immediately arrested. However, even after thoroughly searching the home, Hajin was nowhere to be found. At that moment, Hajin was desperately banging on a locked door, trying to escape. Meanwhile, Young-hoon drove to a location linked to the director's suspicious transactions. It was a remote area with an abandoned warehouse nearby. There, in the dirt beside an old tree, he found a single high-heeled shoe. It was Hajin's. Without wasting a second, he called the detective. Beneath an eerie flight of stairs, he discovered a dimly lit underground passage. Lining the walls were photographs of Hajin. At that moment, the director, the suspect, suddenly, Young-hoon emerged from the shadows and launched a surprise attack. The two men wrestled fiercely, exchanging blows for what felt like an eternity. After an intense battle, Young-hoon finally gained the upper hand, subduing the director and locking him inside the garage. With the danger neutralized, Ha-jin was freed at last. However, Young-hoon found himself troubled by a different matter. His late girlfriend's best friend had confessed feelings for him. As dawn broke, Ha-jin reminisced about the previous night, when they had finally confirmed their relationship. Her moment of reflection was interrupted by her younger sister, who suddenly entered the room, catching her off guard. Meanwhile, an experienced doctor, Tae-en, warned Young-hoon that Ha-jin's memories might resurface due to their relationship. She might remember painful things, he cautioned. Young-hoon, determined, replied, I don't want to live with regrets. Late at night, Ha-jin texted Young-hoon. We've been apart for 2 hours already. When can we meet again? Young-hoon replied playfully, then let's meet now. Unable to resist, Ha-jin snuck out to the movie theater. When she arrived, Young-hoon was already there, holding a bucket of popcorn, smiling as if he had been expecting her. Some people recognized them, but Young-hoon reassured Ha-jin, telling her not to worry and to simply enjoy their time together. After the movie ended, as they walked out of the theater, Ha-jin was shocked to see her sister there as well. She panicked, fearing her sister would scold her for sneaking out. But to her surprise, her sister looked even more nervous than she was. Her sister, however, scolded her, what if someone took a picture of you? At that very moment, Young-hoon's assistant rushed over. To the shock of Young-hoon and Ha-jin, the assistant openly admitted to the media that they were indeed dating. But the power of a single sentence can change everything. During a fan-signing event, a man approached Ha-jin and greeted her in Korean. Ha-jin felt as if the ground beneath her had disappeared. Ha-jin fainted on the spot. The sudden shock triggered her lost memories, and she finally recalled the past. Worried, Young-hoon came to Ha-jin's home. Ha-jin asked if he already knew that Soo-yeon was her first love and friend. Young-hoon admitted he wasn't trying to hide it but wasn't sure if he should tell her. Ha-jin finally understood why Young-hoon had repeatedly rejected her at the start. He tried to comfort her, but she had more important things to do. On live news, he fiercely denounced Tae-nam's past crimes and urged the public to provide clues to help capture him. Young-hoon's encouraging words were broadcast live, and phone calls flooded in. The news about Tae-nam's manhunt made a huge impact, but it was already too late. Tae-nam saw the news and fled. Ha-jin regained her memories and realized she had started dating the boyfriend of her deceased best friend. She then asked Young-hoon for a breakup. Young-hoon told Ha-jin not to blame herself. The real villain was Tae-nam. Still, Ha-jin couldn't forgive herself. Young-hoon pulled her close and held her back, determined not to let go. Ha-jin turned to face him, looking at him seriously. Though reluctant, Young-hoon apologized. After that, Ha-jin threw herself into work, trying to forget Young-hoon. His calls and messages full of longing were like water off a duck's back. One day, Tae-eun met with Ha-jin and said he had tried to convince Young-hoon to break up with her, but Young-hoon insisted that even if the memories were painful, he wanted to stay by Ha-jin's side. Tae-eun encouraged Ha-jin to accept Young-hoon's love. Still hesitant, Ha-jin went home unaware that Young-hoon was watching her from a distance. She continued to bury herself in work, but when the filming of her movie was cancelled due to conflicts, she remembered rehearsing with Young-hoon. Was fate trying to cut them apart? In frustration, she gathered the gifts Young-hoon had given her and threw them into the trash bin, then disappeared without even taking her phone. Young-hoon searched everywhere they had been together, even into the late-night rain, until he finally found the fragile Ha-jin near her home. She opened up and spoke her true feelings. Young-hoon held her tightly and took her home to change out of her dirty clothes. But Ha-jin suddenly regretted it and said everything she just said was nonsense and didn't count. She tried to leave, but Young-hoon said, I'll pretend you said nonsense, but you have to change your clothes and eat something before you go. Ha-jin had no choice but to change her clothes. When she came out, she saw Young-hoon still wearing his dirty clothes. Ha-jin told him to change, but Young-hoon said he was afraid she might leave while he was changing. Only after getting his promise that he wouldn't leave did Young-hoon change his clothes. Not long after, he took Ha-jin home. Before parting, Young-hoon seriously told her he couldn't lose her. The next morning, he waited at Ha-jin's doorstep, insisting on taking home the clothes Ha-jin wore the day before. Actually, that was just an excuse to see her. As he left, Young-hoon gave her a cold question, but soon Ha-jin's little sister came to find her. Young-hoon felt nervous, thinking she might be there to persuade them to break up. Unexpectedly, the sister told Young-hoon that her sister loved him very much and urged him not to give up on her. This gave Young-hoon confidence, knowing he had a little helper on his side. Soon, a chance came. Ha-jin took part in a public service advertisement, and Young-hoon also received an invitation. The director had a sudden inspiration and asked them to shoot a couple's promo clip. Young-hoon immediately agreed, and before Ha-jin could speak, her sister also agreed for them. Wearing white shirts and jeans, clean and fresh, with their natural chemistry, they really looked like a family. Back home, Ha-jin received photos Young-hoon shared, making her think of him again. Meanwhile, Young-hoon was with the police investigating leads on the dangerous man but missed capturing him as he escaped again. Just after Young-hoon got home, he received a call from the maniac. The man was calling all the mothers and children in the neighborhood, asking them to keep quiet for a day. Young-hoon immediately understood what he was planning. But when he arrived at the scene, he found Soo-yeon's ashes had been taken. Indeed, just moments ago, the man had smashed the glass and stolen the ashes with a hammer. Based on Young-hoon's knowledge of the man, he guessed where he would go next. Before leaving, he called Ha-jin's sister, telling him to stay with Ha-jin no matter what. Young-hoon then rushed to the rooftop where Soo-yeon's accident happened 8 years ago. Sure enough, he saw the ashes. Suddenly, the maniac appeared and slashed Young-hoon. Hearing police knocking, the man stabbed Young-hoon again. Just as the man tried to attack Young-hoon further, the police stormed in. Not wanting to be caught, the man jumped off the building. Severely injured, Young-hoon was rushed to the hospital. When he opened his eyes, he saw Ha-jin, whom he had missed terribly. At first, he thought it was a dream, but realizing it was real, he grabbed her hand tightly and refused to let go. The maniac wasn't dead but had lost sensation from the neck down and due to brain bleeding had lost the ability to speak. Perhaps this state of being neither dead nor alive was the greatest punishment. After seeing the maniac, Young-hoon went to the rooftop and found Ha-jin searching for him. Young-hoon used his usual persistence, telling her if she didn't agree to get back together, he wouldn't leave the hospital room. Ha-jin listened to her heart and confessed to him. Learning Young-hoon was doing well, they relaxed on the lawn together, looking forward to a bright future. But the gossip monger wasn't done. To steal the spotlight, he started a live stream revealing Young-hoon as the book's protagonist and leaked that his ex-girlfriend was Ha-jin's close friend. People began speculating. Some felt sorry for Young-hoon, but many suspected he and Ha-jin had a secret relationship even before his late wife passed. Ha-jin's work suffered. She was bombarded with cancelled interviews and reporters showing up at her door. Facing tough questions, she didn't know what to say, until Young-hoon showed up like a knight and escorted her home. Surprisingly, instead of being upset, Ha-jin supported Young-hoon. And they started a snack party, their moods unaffected. They promised to stick together forever. Yet things didn't go smoothly. One moment, Young-hoon was happily eating a grilled sausage when suddenly a trash can was slammed onto his head, filling the screen with an awful stench. Honestly, it was deserved. He had live-streamed private details about Young-hoon and twisted public opinion to make Ha-jin look like the third party. Surprisingly, Ha-jin had forgiven him and let him return to the studio. They thought the public would soon forget the scandal involving Young-hoon and Ha-jin. But investors and directors were ruthless. Seeing the negative trend, many immediately canceled contracts. With no choice, the company president suggested Ha-jin move to the US to continue her career. Meanwhile, Young-hoon also faced fallout. He heard that the director, despite pressure, refused to replace him but was about to be dismissed soon. After finishing his last live broadcast, Young-hoon submitted his resignation to the director. That evening, he called Ha-jin to tell her the news. Ha-jin lied, saying her work hadn't been affected. When Young-hoon learned she was leaving, he asked her out to talk. They discussed their feelings. If it was right, they would be together. If not, then not. In the end, many couples unfortunately broke up due to online bullying. 2 years later, Young-hoon had transformed from a solo streamer into a solo journalist. People who felt guilty around him would avert their eyes. One day, The director treated him to a grand dinner and begged him to return as a broadcaster. After much pleading, Young-hoon finally agreed. On the way home, he suddenly saw a woman in a car across the street. It was Ha-jin. He thought she hadn't noticed him, but she had, though she wasn't sure how to face him. That night, Ha-jin secretly watched Young-hoon's news broadcast. The man she liked was still as handsome as ever. The next day, Young-hoon went to a bookstore looking for a book. He thought he saw Ha-jin and followed someone through the aisles, but it wasn't her. Just as he turned around, Ha-jin appeared behind him. Their eyes met, and they stared at each other in disbelief. They exchanged a few words before a phone call interrupted them. Fans noticed Ha-jin and Young-hoon quickly left the store. However, Young-hoon felt he couldn't miss the chance and turned back, with Ha-jin following behind. It was like a classic Korean drama scene. You look for me, I look for you, yet neither finds the other. Young-hoon called Ha-jin, but her number had already been cancelled. Disappointed, he went home. Just then, a minor accident happened with a taxi, and unexpectedly, Ha-jin got out of the taxi. Young-hoon drove Ha-jin home and even complained about how quickly they arrived. After getting out, both wanted to reconcile but didn't know how to start the conversation. "Come on, if you're a man, just do it," said a voice. Young-hoon realized he had been neglecting things, and so had Ha-jin. Finally, they got back together. Since they had reconciled, dates were inevitable. Ha-jin hurried downstairs carrying 2 big boxes of deliveries. They were going camping together. Everything was loaded into the car, and after putting on stylish sunglasses, they were ready to go. But the sky had other plans. It suddenly started to rain. Yet that didn't stop their determination to camp. So instead, they set up a tent inside the house. Sitting on the sofa watching a movie with their loved one right beside them, this must be the happiest moment for any couple. That's the whole story. Thanks to everyone who has followed along until now. If you enjoyed it, leave a like as a little token.